Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webcast, Real Stories to Help You Prepare for the API SMS Third-Party Assessment Program. I'm Mike Reed, Editor-in-Chief of Pipeline and Gas Journal magazine, and I'm your moderator today. As part of the industry's ongoing commitment to continuous pipeline safety improvement, API developed a not-for-profit pipeline SMS assessment program in collaboration with industry partners. During this live webinar, API will discuss its Pipeline SMS third-party assessment program, including its use of a diverse set of assessors with multiple affiliations, and talk about 2021 and beyond. Also, Southwest Gas Corporation will share how it broke down barriers by implementing a champions network at both an executive and cross-functional employee level. Additionally, Southwest Gas will discuss how the company incorporated system improvement enhancements through a corrective action program and a virtual peer review assessment of a select Pipeline SMS essential element. Finally, the speakers will share advances made in stakeholder engagement through various communication channels. Joining us for today's webcast are Colin Frazier, Manager of Systems Programs, and David Toth, Senior Associate of Systems Programs for the American Petroleum Institute, along with Jeannie Cardin, Manager of the Engineering Staff, and Jerry Schmitz, Vice President of the Engineering Staff of Southwest Gas Corporation. Colin Frazier is a Manager of Systems Programs with the American Petroleum Institute in Washington, D.C. In this role, he manages the Pipeline SMS third-party assessment program, as well as the Process Safety Site Assessment program. Prior to that, Colin was a policy advisor at API, managing oil spill and emergency response initiatives across the oil and gas industry for member companies. Before joining API, Colin worked for BP in their Gulf of Mexico operations, holding several positions in health, safety and environment compliance, and policy advising. He holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in Environmental Science from Texas A&M University, as well as a Master's of Public Affairs and a Master's of Science in Environmental Science, from Indiana University. David Toth is a Senior Associate of Systems Programs with the American Petroleum Institute in Houston, Texas. In this role, he oversees the Pipeline SMS third-party assessment program. Before joining API, he was a Manager of Compliance, Codes, and Standards at Kinder Morgan. David has over 15 years of experience in the energy industry. He's held leadership roles in oil and gas operations in the midstream and upstream sectors, emergency services, environmental, health, and safety management, and business development. Jeannie Cardin has worked for Southwest Gas Corporation for 23 years in both operations and corporate roles. She is currently the Engineering Staff Manager of Pipeline Safety Planning and is responsible for the planning, implementation, and maturation of the Pipeline Safety Management System for Southwest Gas. Additionally, Jeannie is a certified corrosion technician through the National Association of Corrosion Engineers. Jerry Schmitz is Vice President of the Engineering Staff of Southwest Gas Corporation. He is responsible for engineering services, system integrity, gas operations support staff, and operational quality assurance. He is a member of the Pipeline SMS industry team, which facilitates the implementation of API Recommended Practice 1173. Jerry also serves on the American Society of Mechanical Engineers B31 Code for Pressure Piping Standards Committee. He is a member of the American Gas Association, serving on the Operations Section Managing Committee. Okay, just some general housekeeping notes before we get started. Following the presentation, we'll have a short question and answer session. You can participate in the Q&A by asking questions at any time during the presentation. Just type your question in the Q&A box located on the bottom left corner of your screen, then click the Submit button. Please take this time to familiarize yourself with the webinar platform. At the bottom of your screen, there are multiple application widgets you can use. All the widgets are resizable and movable, so feel free to move them around to get the most out of your desktop space. You can expand your slide area or maximize it to full screen by clicking on the arrows in the top right corner. The slides will advance automatically throughout the event. If you are experiencing problems with the program, please press the F5 on your keyboard to refresh the presentation. You can also visit the webcast help guide by clicking on the help button below the slide window. Now, let's get started.
Thank you so much, Mike. This is Colin Frazier with API, and I just want to start off by thanking everyone for joining us today. We are here to talk a little bit about API's third-party assessment program for Pipeline SMS and how it can really help operators evaluate the maturity of their SMS, as well as give them needed feedback in helping them improve their implementation of their SMS programs. I want to thank Jerry and Jeannie for being with us today. We really appreciate and acknowledge the value of having an operator's perspective for Pipeline SMS implementation, and we think the audience will get a lot out of their remarks today. So thank you again, Jerry and Jeannie, for being with us. And with that, David, I will turn it over to you to kick us off to talk about the Pipeline SMS assessment program.
Thanks, Colin. What we're going to kind of talk today really about is the overview of 1173, also the third-party assessment. And again, Southwest Gas is going to talk about breaking PSMS barriers. Really excited about what they're having to talk about. And then we're going to kind of wrap it up with conclusion and then also a live question and answering. So for those new kind of to management systems, so what is an effective management system? It delivers their organizational goals, organizational memory, and it utilizes available resources, capabilities, and efficiency over their life cycle. You're also looking at structure, sustainability, and repeatable. So when we talk about what a management system does, we have to make sure that it's sustainable and it's repeatable. Some of the, you're always looking at continuous improving, but the management systems are often used in complex industries. So you're looking at nuclear, chemical, throughout the oil and gas industry. So for pipelines especially, it allows companies to take the principles and the performances-based approach to managing those complex pipeline operations. So when you look at the safety management system elements, I believe most people are familiar with the 10 elements: leadership, management, commitment, management review, all the way down to documentation review. The assessments are designed to look at each of the 10 elements, both written procedures, and then how these elements are implemented in the field. We're looking at the effectiveness of your PSMS. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. What we want to do is take what you have effectively or what you have already developed and drive the effectiveness. How can we take those opportunities for effectiveness and take your management system to the next level? The assessments, are designed, in the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle, allowing operators to identify gaps in their SMS, and then kind of operate, the opportunities to increase the effectiveness in each one of those elements. The assessment also provides, I don't know what happened there, to validate their PSMS systems and address the conformity of auditing requirement. That's a big thing for our assessment program. It does, it's an industry developed program, and it actually is conforming to the auditing requirement in 1173. So what is the third-party assessment program? So it's a third-party assessment program that's proven strategies that provide valuable information and benchmarking to both operators and the oil and gas industry. Unlike other, I can say, firms or programs, it's a unique experience. We have the benchmarking to address and get you the benchmarking that you want to see. If it's a business unit structure or if it's a whole company, we can actually do the benchmarking against industry or other, or yourselves. It's a way to kind of improve industry as a whole. And when we examine the quality of the PSMS assessments, it's obvious that it's consistent, that it has an industry-approved, consistent approach. And there should be a main aim, which should be the main aim of the quality of the assessment. Assessments are also
Hey,
designed.
David, I'm just going to hop in here really quickly, only to add for the audience's perspective. So obviously consistency is a big deal here. We want to be able to show that industry as a whole is improving, and we're vested in helping industry improve. So as we developed this, as we start talking about the maturity model and other things, I do think it's important to talk a little bit about how our assessment program is consistent with the SMS industry tools that are available for everyone to use free of charge on pipeline.sms.org. So we really wanted it to flow seamlessly from the tools that companies were already using to push forward an implementation, so that you're getting feedback in a structured way that's easily implementable and can sync up with the work that you're already doing in that space. Thanks, David.
So if we look at the maturity model, recognizing starting on the pipeline SMS journey can be difficult. The 1173 is flexible and scalable, but for some that it is more challenging from the beginning. The maturity model is designed to ensure that unified effort, just like what Colin said, it's consistent across industry. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. We're doing what's already available, what's already been approved, what other people are already utilizing. And we take this maturity model for our benchmarking and to evaluate the effectiveness of the implementation of your SMS. The assessments are also designed to facilitate, the implementation, to share that real-time benchmarking that we're talking about, that consistent benchmarking, not a siloed approach to it, but actually an industry-wide benchmarking, and drive improvements for safety and also for industry. So what are the assessments intended to do? The assessment, is evaluating the conformance and effectiveness, correct? That's one of those things that we want to make sure that it does. And then identifies those opportunities to increase that effectiveness. Again, you already have it in place. How can we tie it together? How can we connect the dots? And how can we drive that effectiveness and take it to that next level? The program's intended to be flexible, just like the 1173. And then it's also, it could be tailored to any operator or any which way scope that they want to. If they want to just, evaluate just one or two elements, they can. But, of course, you're going to get the most benefit when you do all 10 elements. And the Pipeline SMS assessment program also is a way for us to kind of take that RP and evaluate the effectiveness with the scoring based off the maturity models that we just talked about. So it's keeping it in one consistent approach and still providing the operators that standardized auditing requirement and fulfilling it. One of the most things that we, I think that I really enjoy about the assessment program is our assessor diversity. So who are the assessors? Assessors are the independent pipeline safety management experts that are actually identified and qualified. So we do train the assessors to make sure that, one, it's not an audit. We want to get rid of that audit frame of mind. We want that assessment frame of mind. We want that coaching. We want to go in there and say, you know what, this is what we need to do to take you to the next level. Not the I got you, but let's look and let's talk as a team. Let's work together. Usually we have over 20 years of experience. You also look at a lot of our assessors are pipeline presidents, VPs, and experts that have retired. And a lot of them were part of the development of RP 1173. So, of course, the diversity. So, it's a multi-industry firm. So what we do is we take a bunch of firms that are contracted with us and we develop the team. It's not going to be just throwing, firms out there in AECOM, Stantec, EXP, RCP. We bring them together because we all believe in that one team, one goal of zero incidents. So, some of the best things that we have about it is, it's an unique industry-led and approved experience. You're going to gain a lot of the information from all the different companies and all the different firms and all the past, experience from presidents, VPs, experts, and others to kind of drive it. And you're going to get the best lessons learned, the best practices, the best benchmarking data that you need to or really need versus what an operator actually gets when you have just one firm coming through, because often it's a siloed approach. This is what they've seen, but you know what? What we bring in is what industry has seen. And of course, again, the unique benchmarking consistency, as Colin approached, discussed. One of the key benefits is that our unique benchmarking, where you can actually benchmark your business units, internally, or you can do it across, across industry. If you're one company and you just have a midstream part, you benchmark it against industry, that's something we can do as well. Operators receive, blinded benchmarking for 6 years after the assessment. And also, as more assessments come in, the more granular we can get as far as benchmarking in the future. And so what are some of the assessment deliverables? Of course, the report. The report is usually over 100 pages. Not only do you get a good overview of the assessment for executive management, but you also get the element and the sub-element information, which I think is great for those that are driving the PSMS. And you can look at your opportunities to effectiveness, you can look at notable practices, and you can look at your observations. We do take those opportunities and we put that into that benchmarking data. And as far as the benchmarking, remember, it's a consistent benchmarking because we have a consistent approach across industry. You're not looking at a checkbox. We're doing a true assessment. And so we look at the evaluation of the summaries. It's blinded, it's aggregated. And then it's across industry to help improve pipeline safety as a whole. And, some of the post-assessment support, operators can reach out to API and, we can facilitate peer-to-peer sharing with the PSMS industry team, including best practices, lessons learned, and, where you can connect with other operators saying, we have this opportunity to increase our effectiveness. We're kind of struggling. How can we get it to the next level? How can we do this? And you have that opportunity, through our assessment approach, to actually talk to other operators and talk about the struggles they use or they had, and then kind of what did they do to take it to that next level. And again, some of the third-party assessments, key for implementation. Again, it's the foundation. 1173 is a foundation approach. It's your baseline. But when you implement an RP like 1173, you're gaining other relevant operating for pipelines. So you have 1160, 1174, 75, 77. So when you have 1173 as your baseline, it makes it easier to bring in other RPs and other standards. Now, one of the last slides, is what makes our assessment a success. It begins 4 to 6 months in advance. The reason being is, it's a lot of, after COVID this year, a lot of people are traveling. A lot of people are going to Disneyland now or Disney World. So it takes a little bit more logistical work right now, looking at 4 to 6 months. Make sure that we have the right people in the interview process. We can do a hybrid model, virtual and in person. So there is that opportunity to do your documentation review or your interviews virtually, but, we still strongly suggest, the in-person for the implementation. Be aware of the other schedule assessments. If you have a audit come through, an internal audit or a regulatory audit, it's good to always have that time to step back for a moment and then do our assessment program, because we want to make sure that nobody has that audit frame of mind. As a former operator, a lot of times you get a lot of audits and you kind of get stuck a little bit. But that's not what we do. We do that conversation. We want to make sure everybody's just talking. That's all it is. We're just having a talk just to increase effectiveness. And, engage the subject matter experts earlier, SMEs, make sure that they're on board and they have the understanding that it's an assessment and not an audit. Utilize peer-to-peer, resources, like pipeline SMS.org, the pre-assessment work, so as far as that goes, we're going to work hand in hand, as far as the pre-assessment work. We'll develop the assessment plan. We'll talk through all the logisticals to working together. It's not going to be, well, we're going to come in and this is our expectations from you. No, we're working together. This is a joint effort. Again, one team, one goal to drive industry to zero incidents. Discussion, between the operators and leadership. We have to make sure that we always have that open communication. And of course, having the right personnel in the right room for those interviews. And that's something we can assist with as well when we talk about logistics. And then just the willingness to be ready to have this assessment with an assessment frame of mind versus an audit frame of mind. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to
David, I'm going to hop in only to say before we move on that, great overview of the program. If anyone's interested in getting the nitty-gritty details, they can feel free to reach out to us and we can give them a more tailored presentation. But I also just wanted to mention at the end, though, that we purposely didn't create an assessment program that would only be relevant to people who had fully implemented their management systems already. I want to stress that this assessment program is really tailored because of its focus on good practice sharing at helping operators at every level of maturity get to that next level and to really push implementation and your maturity scores further in the future. So if there are any operators listening today that are thinking, man, this sounds great, but we're not there yet, that's the point. We're here to help you get there, and we can bring in a team of experts to point out maybe some of where your blind spots are and to share good practices that have been seen across the industry to help you mature faster on the journey of implementing Pipeline SMS. So thanks, David, for a great presentation.
And Jerry, I want to turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, David. And by the way, I really appreciate the approach you guys are taking for your assessments and kind of staying away from the audit mentality. I think that's going to be a very positive thing for the industry as well as all the operators out there. So anyways, I do appreciate the opportunity to share with everyone some of the steps we've recently taken to break through a few of the implementation barriers on our pipeline safety management system, or PSMS journey. We actually started pretty early on this journey. However, some of our recent actions have been very effective, and those are what Jeannie and I will share with you today. Most of them fall under the category of what I call creating safety or advancing the safety culture. And here are the topics that we plan to cover. First, I'll start with a quick overview of Southwest Gas and then cover our general approach to PSMS. Then we'll discuss our various champions and also how we engaged our contractors. Finally, we'll talk about our new corrective and preventive action program. We call it Achieving Continuous Excellence, or ACE. And then we'll get into some examples of our stakeholder engagement. So just an overview of Southwest Gas. We operate in 3 states, California, Nevada, and Arizona. We have 5 operating divisions, and our corporate headquarters are here where I'm at in Las Vegas. We have a diverse service territory ranging from the desert in Arizona to the metropolitan areas of Tucson, Phoenix, and here in Las Vegas, and all the way extending up to the mountain regions of Lake Tahoe and other communities along the I-80 corridor in northern Nevada. We operate about 1,400 miles of transmission pipeline. However, we are mostly a local distribution company with almost 56,000 miles of mains and services and over 2 million customers. We do all this with less than 2,400 employees. So let me talk a little bit about our approach here. When we started our journey, we were kind of scratching our head about the concept of the 10 essential elements and the 200 plus shall statements found in the API recommended practice 1173. We didn't want to reinvent the wheel when it came to our pipeline safety practices. However, we did want to advance our safety culture to a new and higher level. And we knew that if we implemented API RP 1173, we could do that. We did have some basic questions like, how do we create a safety culture where everybody in the organization owns it? A culture where everybody has the knowledge, skills, and ability to do their part to create safety and continuously improve the overall safety culture. And a culture where every task or every project is started, changed, and stopped positively with certainty that it's done right and right from the start. So we dove in and began what I would describe as a fairly mechanical approach. And that worked okay, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Then about a year or so ago, we engaged more people and asked them to really own PSMS and got them into live communication. That is when the implementation barriers started to break down. We moved from a generally mechanical approach to one that breathed life into the very fabric of what we do, owning, knowing, and practicing safety. So here is our story, the story of a journey that is by no means complete. However, a story I think is worth sharing. We started before the recommended practice was published. We set up a governance structure with a steering committee of executives and leveraged one of our work groups that was formed after the San Bruno incident to tap into what PHMSA and the NTSB were looking at and really try to get out in front of that change. They were called Pipeline Safety Planning, and PSMS was a natural fit for them. The champions came later. They are now part of our governance. However, they were not there at the beginning. And I'll have a lot more to say about the champions, as will Jeannie. Southwest Gas was actually part of the original development team for API 1173. So we got to see the sausage being made and had some inside knowledge of what was coming. Then we embarked on a gap analysis that led to an enhancements list and our first PSMS plan document. All very well and good, but again, mostly mechanical. We had a third-party consultant familiar with PSMS come in and review our progress and evaluate our maturity level. Our maturity level came in at 2.5, halfway between developing and implemented. Not bad, but more to be done. We wanted to improve that and really engage all of our management, all of our employees, and all of our contractors. So we went back to work with the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle of continuous improvement in mind. We updated our PSMN roadmap, the plan, and got to work on a second round or second generation, Gen 2 as we called it, gap analysis, element by element. And this time we enlisted the help of a cross-functional team who were willing to truly own the PSMS. We call them the PSMS champions. From there, we stepped up our industry engagement to learn as much as we could about what others were doing in the field of PSMS. We joined the PSMS Executive Steering Committee at AGA and volunteered to chair the new Operational Risk Data Committee at AGA. We took on various roles at the SMS Industry Collaborative, a group of about a dozen LDCs sharing best practices and working on PSMS initiatives. And here at API, we were able to join the Pipeline SMS industry team. All of this expanded our basic knowledge of PSMS. The Gen 2 review of the essential elements began with element 1, leadership and management commitment. That resulted in another breakthrough in the area of ownership. And I can't say enough about this. When I say ownership, I mean the decision by management and other employees to take full responsibility for creating safety and continuously improving the safety culture. This brings us to the Element Champions, an executive sponsor and a few other leaders who own one or more of the 10 elements. The creation of safety had begun. And here they are. You can see each element listed here and the officer associated with that element. For example, Element 1, Leadership and Management Commitment, is sponsored by our Senior Vice President of Operations. Each officer is assigned with one element, or one or more elements, I should say, where there was some natural interest or affinity. And supporting each officer is what we call a staff champion and an operations champion. And here is what their roles are. The executive generally sets the goals and promotes the positive safety culture through their visible leadership commitment. The staff champions are there to support from the policy, procedure, tools, equipment, training, and process improvement side. And the operations champions ensure that there is a clear connection between the goals and objectives and the day-to-day work activities. So now we have real people with high interest in live communication, moving the safety culture forward. Let me tell you, it's a beautiful thing. And it doesn't stop there. The PSMS Champions Network, the cross-functional team I spoke of earlier, is keeping the momentum going with the review of another essential element and another and another. So to tell you more about the PSMS Champions and our contractor engagement and our new corrective and preventive action program is our manager of pipeline safety planning, Jeannie Carden. So Jeannie, over to you. Jeannie, I can't tell if you're there.
Yes, I started a couple minutes ago. I wanted to thank Jerry. Yeah, thank you, Jerry. And I wanted to thank David also for his quote on one team, one goal, and the drive to zero incidents, because that is, at the end of the day, what we're doing here. I spoke about our PSMS Champions Network at the October API PSMS workshop and wanted to provide an update. We have engagement across our organization at all levels and all functions. We're sharing best practices and understanding at a different level than ever before. Our PSMS champions have three key responsibilities: improving, measuring, and messaging. They work to review input provided by our 20 subject matter experts who are responsible for a total of 34 different resources to include one committee and many programs, developments, or departments, manuals, and activities, and look for gaps that may exist within the element being reviewed. They also look at ways at measuring these elements to gauge how things are improving or where things might still need shoring up so that we continue to move towards excellence. They are also working on messaging to help educate both on the basic understanding of an element, but also components within an element. They communicate PSMS-related messages to differing audiences using differing media such as safety and department meetings and Microsoft Teams and Yammer. Their goal is to review and complete these three tasks on one element per quarter. In the fourth quarter of 2022, they will finish the first complete review, and they will start all over again to continue to improve and to continue keeping it fresh. As Jerry mentioned, just one item coming from their work is the previously discussed development of the Element Champions team, which has made a huge impact on our safety culture. Not only are we strengthening the safety culture internally at Southwest Gas, we are also strengthening the safety culture externally with our contractors in three ways. We started holding annual contractor executive meetings in 2016 with approximately 30 to 40 Southwesters and contractors in attendance. In 2020, this event was held virtually and had over 600 attendees. Every contractor executive, along with their field leadership, operated in full transparency, not only openly discussing where they felt they were strong on PSMS, but even more importantly, where they felt improvement was needed. Every contractor team openly made a commitment to developing and enhancing their PSMS program, completing a gap analysis, and working collaboratively with Southwest Gas to do so. This meeting was also recorded so that it could be shared even further. The executive meeting was not just a one-time thing. Follow-up quarterly PSMS contractor meetings were initially planned to ensure goals are being attained and that the right conversations are being held at the right level. These meetings have been deemed so valuable that the frequency will be increased so that best practices and lessons learned can be shared in a timelier fashion. We are also engaged with some of the industry's top utilities, our peers, in working on standardization of PSMS guidelines for contractors to ensure alignment. Southwest Gas is leading this subcommittee, which meets monthly. The main objective is to have minimum guidelines that all contractors can adhere to, regardless of the contractor's size and regardless of which utility they are working for. An important contributor to the PSMS and a culture of continuous improvement is a corrective and preventive action program. At the end of 2020, Southwest Gas launched our ACE, or Achieving Continuous Excellence program. ACE enables Southwesters to quickly and easily identify, report, and track good catches, near misses, and possible operational improvements on a phone, a tablet, or a computer. Submittals can be for pipeline safety, occupational health and safety, office or field processes, tools or equipment, physical security, training, and recently added fleet. The application promotes continuous improvement in safety, reliability, customer experience, and cost efficiency. Our program was designed based on feedback from peer utilities. Best practices were identified, such as user-friendliness, mobile tablet accessibility, and back-end workflow routing, as well as lessons learned. Our ACE application was developed by representatives from various departments that worked with IS to build our program. We implemented across functional teams and utilized the software solution we already had in-house and was able to ensure the best practices gleaned from our peers were incorporated. From this flowchart, you can see the simplicity behind our application. The initiator creates an ACE record. This record gets passed to a unique element in our program, which is the GM Director Review Team. This team meets weekly to review all submissions and prioritize, assess risk, and monitor each record submitted to track completion. If accepted, the submittal gets passed to the record owner, who generates an action plan and assigns an action owner. The action owner then will check for completeness and approve if acceptable. The GM Director Review Team provides the final approval and the record gets closed. All the while, the initiator is getting notifications for their submitted record. Their concerns, their voices are heard. An ACE program dashboard has also been developed to provide weekly updates to all operation officers and program team members for awareness and visibility. Our GM Director team is collectively dedicated to this activity and can be exemplified in one situation where something was submitted as a near miss, but after review and a few clarification questions, it was confirmed to be a good catch and was corrected as such. Our program is implemented and we are getting results. This is a huge advancement to our safety culture. And here's just a few examples of some of the submittals we've had. Southwest Gas employees are engaged with enhancing safety, thereby enhancing our safety culture by submitting items they are experiencing in the field. On the left is an example of a near miss. A service technician and supervisor responded to a structure fire. Our procedures require a pressure test at the meter set. Due to the unstable structure adjacent to the MSA, they made the call to forego the pressure test for safety reasons and notified construction to excavate and cap the service. While construction performed their tasks away from the meter set, part of the wall did indeed fall down with a lot of debris landing around the MSA. We have two good catches as example. On the left, a measurement and control technologist reported unsafe excavation activities near a newly installed high-pressure facility. The contractor was excavating with no marks and no locate ticket. Our employees stopped the crew and informed them of the high-pressure facilities that ran perpendicular to their trench and educated them about safe digging practices. The second good catch on the right, a service technician responded to an odor complaint inside a laundry room at an apartment complex. After clearing inside, he proceeded to complete the outdoor investigation where he observed that a new gas line had been installed for a barbecue and was piped into our riser. The service technician notified his supervisor, advised the owner of the situation, and disconnected the new pipeline from the riser. We also have two examples of operational improvements. A leak surveyor submitted an operational improvement idea to add a flashlight to the leak survey wand to help with locating in low light situations. The second example on the right, in our central Arizona operations area, approximately 33% of pipeline damages were taking place in new business developments. The operational improvement idea was to place a sign at the entrance of a new business development that brings awareness to 811 prior to excavation. These two seemingly little ideas have proved to be great improvements. At Southwest Gas, we continue to learn and improve and strengthen our culture of safety with every submittal that we receive. Since going live at the end of last year, we have received approximately 50 submissions. And now I'd like to turn it back to Jerry to continue sharing how we've been breaking barriers at Southwest Gas. Jerry?
Thank you, Jeannie. I just wanted to finish off with two topics that played a role in, again, driving implementation and breaking those barriers, as Jeannie mentioned, and creating safety. In December last year, we had the opportunity to review one of the PSMS elements with a group of industry subject matter experts. Essential element 5, incident investigation, evaluation, and lessons learned, was the one we looked at. There were several takeaways from this exercise, the most impactful of which was an accelerated high-level incident review process we now call the initial incident assessment. At Southwest Gas, we have a formal process to conduct a root cause analysis and an incident critique for federally reportable incidents. The root cause analysis identifies the cause of the incidents and is aimed at mitigating the likelihood of a similar incident from occurring. The critique evaluates the emergency response activities and is used to mitigate the consequences of incidents. Both of these practices, though, can take some time to complete. The initial incident assessment was envisioned to be a high-level review by a diverse team to capture items right away that could prevent another incident from happening or improve our emergency response. The items could then be quickly communicated to all of our operations through a safety call or other live communication channel. We tested it earlier this year and it worked well. We used it again in Phoenix a few months ago and then again in Winnemucca in northern Nevada. In one case, we improved the security of our above ground facilities. And in the other case, we identified new opportunities for internal cameras to locate unmapped stubs, thus preventing damages. In many ways, this is basic stuff. However, it was now infused with live communication, and that truly has advanced the safety culture. So that brings me to my next topic, all of the various methods and forums we have developed to communicate with our employees and advance the stakeholder engagement. You can see them here. The safety calls are held twice a month with supervisors on up. Their scope includes both pipeline safety and employee safety items. The walk the talk is a way for us to get focused information out on topics like PSMS in video or bulletin format. The safety bulletins are periodic employee safety messages, and the operational improvement plans are broad 3-year goals for all of operations to see and aspire to. And here are a few more. The operations calls are monthly calls with managers and up to cover a broad range of operational topics. Calls are similar to the safety calls, except they occur bi-monthly and focus on quality issues. Finally, we engage our employees and contractors through manual and training revisions. Ownership, knowledge, and live communication all build that safety culture and create safety. So in conclusion, after we had our third-party evaluation of our program and maturity level, we got to work using the PDCA continuous improvement cycle and launched our Gen 2 gap analysis of each essential element. This created more ownership through the review process itself and as a result of Essential Element 1 analysis. The PSMS Champions Network is working on the essential element reviews. The element champions are closing the gaps on each element. The contractors have taken ownership of their own PSMS and are doing their own gap analysis. This breeds engagement at all levels. In fact, our entire employee base is engaged in creating safety through the ACE program, our corrective and preventive action program. And finally, we remain engaged with the industry to gain more knowledge and take more responsibility and bring it back to our employees through various forms of live communication. And the cycle continues. We have really built some momentum and broken some barriers. Safety is being created. The safety culture is being advanced. And that's really what it's all about. And in the end, the incidents go down and down and down and eventually drive to zero. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to either Mike or David to take some questions.
Okay, we'll now transition to the question and answer portion of our webcast. You can continue to submit your questions in the Q&A box located in the bottom left corner of the screen. Here's a question that's specifically to Jeannie. Did SWG build a mobile application, or are you using an existing mobile application?
Southwest Gas is using an application that can be used mobilely. It has there's an icon on each of the phones that they can pop open and use. It's an Apex application development in-house.
Okay, here's another question. How many contractors attend the periodic meetings? What topics are discussed during the meetings? And if there are many, they'd also like to know if there are many contractors attending, how do you run an efficient and effective meeting?
To date, we've had approximately 20 contractors attending our periodic meetings. And you're absolutely right. You do run into a time constraint. We were holding them quarterly. We do plan on holding them monthly now. And then two things that we were suggesting doing is not always starting with A at the top and going through people so that you rotate and cover everybody better. And then additionally, having them more frequently so that we can talk specifically and have specific people talk at a particular meeting. So rotating everybody around so we're not always hearing from one voice.
Okay, here's a listener who thanks both Jerry and Jeannie for a nice job. They say, has Southwest Gas included efforts to get leaders normally in the office out into the field to stay in touch and spread the SMS message?
Yeah, this is Jerry. I think I can take that. Absolutely, we have asked, in fact, all of our officer group and even some of our junior officers to get out in the field and to meet with our employees. So we actually get even our senior vice president or our chief financial officer out there with the folks and others out there, our accounting folks, and actually they learn a whole lot themselves about the business. So it's really been a kind of a win-win thing. And again, we would advise that to any other operators out there to, again, it gets them understanding what we do in operations, and they can see the importance of safety, and they really live and breathe the whole safety message.
Okay. What type of incident requires high-level review process for initial incident assessment?
So we just started that, and what we've settled on right now is anytime our emergency operations center opens up, and we've averaged maybe about 50 times a year that happens, that those would then kind of be open to that initial incident assessment. We don't do it necessarily every single time, but we use that as the basic kind of subset group or group that we would choose from, and then we would go from there. So we've done it, as I mentioned, 3 times this year since we initiated the program.
Okay, I've got another one for you guys. What responsibilities do you require from contractors under the RP? Are there plans to include contractors in the assessments?
Yeah. Do you want to take that, Jeannie, or want me to take a stab at it first?
Take a stab at it first, please.
Okay. One of the first things we did with our contractors was to ask them to do their own gap analysis, to basically have their own PSMS, their own pipeline safety management system. So we wanted them to go out there and look at how they could apply AP 1173 to their own operations and their own practices. So that was the number one responsibility. And then we're moving forward now as we hear, how the gap analysis are going. And we're getting them to share best practices and things like that. But I would say the number one responsibility right now was to have them do their own gap analysis.
And just to add to that, Jerry, I think another responsibility is to come with open mind and speak openly as well. There's no competition in these meetings. It's all about how can I implement the program? How can I do it well? And learning from each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What was your most unexpected finding from the third-party audit?
From my perspective, the third-party audit that we did was really early. Like Jerry said, we actually started working PSMS in 2015, but it was mostly mechanical, as Jerry stated. And we knew before going into that audit, so I don't think we had really any surprises, but the communication was a big thing that we knew we needed to address, making sure that everybody knows how safety is relevant to them. So I wouldn't say that we had anything that was unexpected. It was stuff that we knew going into the audit, and we could have assessed ourselves at the same ranking that we were given by the third-party audit.
Okay. I may have already asked this one. How many ACE records do you get on a monthly basis?
I'm sorry, Michael, I didn't hear you quite clearly.
Yeah, we didn't hear that. Yeah.
I'm sorry. How many ACE records do you get on a monthly basis?
Well, to date, we've rolled it out in December. To date, we've had 50. Most of them have been good catches.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And near misses is something new. I think as an industry, we're always a little bit shy about telling us when we've had a near miss. I know someone asked the question, what's the difference between a near miss and a good catch? And I had to pull up my definition of it. So a near miss is an unplanned or undesired incident that adversely affects the company facilities, but does not result in an injury and other things. Where a good catch, if someone actually is able to identify a condition before it causes a possible injury, then that's a good catch. I just wanted to share that also because I saw that question pending.
Okay. In regard to the contractors performing their own GAP analysis, did you determine which statements apply to contractors, or did the contractors work through the entire RP?
I believe the contractors have been working through the entire RP. I understand that the industry, the third item I was talking about was that peer industry meeting. They've been working through items that are specifically directed towards the contractors. I don't know if that's going to change our plan of having the full assessment or reduce it to just those, perhaps it's like 70 questions or something like that, or 50 questions.
Okay. Here's someone appreciating all the information, and they would like to know what approach you were using to manage corrective action plans. And then in parentheses, they put assignment, due dates, trending progress.
So corrective action, go ahead, Jerry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Jeannie, I think that has to do with that flow chart you showed where we use the director team, and then we have what we call a record owner and an action owner. So maybe if you can just go through that briefly.
Absolutely. So, but with respect to corrective action plans itself, we do have the ability to follow the same flow process. Right now, we're in our program is the field findings, field observations and such, but we're working to put our findings from an assessment, findings from an evaluation also into the ACE program, and it'll follow the same path. It'll be the initiation, it'll have a time on it, it'll have the director and GM approvals and reviews, it'll have assigners and assignees, and working through the same process, tracking that they're all being completed.
Okay, I think we're about out of time for these questions. I need to hand back to Colin for the conclusion so they can take care of their portion, but appreciate the answers.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeannie. Thanks, Jerry. Happy to take back over and close us out here to get everyone out of here on time. I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank everyone and bring it back to the third-party assessment program. You know, we want to make this program collaborative and added value for any participants in this program so that they can take those outputs and, like Jerry and Jeannie have talked about, make meaningful changes to their program that drive your maturity scores and your implementation moving forward. Because as David said, as we all continue to say, this is all about, you know, driving toward the shared goal of zero incidences and keeping our people, our communities, and our assets safe. So thank you again, Jerry and Jeannie, for all of your work and for your remarks today. So like I said, we did build this program to be easily implementable and to really allow companies to take advantage of it at every stage of implementation. I saw one question in the Q&A portion that asks, you know, I just did my gap analysis. When is the right time? And really, I don't think there is a bad time to do it. You can do it right after you do your internal gap analysis if you want to prove, you know, that you are where you think you are and you want more feedback to take into your gap closure plan. Or you could wait until you do some of those gap closures to bring someone in to understand if you're on the right track and really driving toward a higher level of maturity. So we just want to say that, you know, we're open for business, and API is a nonprofit organization, so we are not looking to make any money off of this. This is a tool that we are offering to industry at cost to better your programs. So if any of you have any questions for us, we can certainly answer them offline. And I would just like, these are our prices for the assessments, and we base them on how large of an operator you are, and that is aligned with the industry team and what they consider to be small, medium, and large operators. And like I said, these costs are flat. These are all inclusive. This is the one invoice you're getting for this service. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed the conversation today. Thank you so much for joining us and learning about all the great work that the SMS industry team, as well as us here at API work on the assessment program, are trying to bring to you as operators to assist you in your implementations. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you all for attending today's webcast. We also extend a thank you to Avetta, American Petroleum Institute, and Southwest Gas Corporation for putting together this timely and informative presentation.